Greetings, my fellow gamers. It is I, Wraith King, bringing you news from beyond the mirror from the other world.
You are
And today,
already dead.
we are taking a really good look at Knox. I am so happy to see that Knox has been awakened today, but there's so much that has been changed with him, but at the same time, so much is better with him. Curse of the Abyss decreases the physical damage received by 70% and increases the debuff success rate by 20%, and block will be applied for all damage received. This will apply only to him. But anyways, sorry if you see me checking the menu on top of the screen every once in a while. My phone has been deleting my videos when I'm recording them, so sorry if you see that. I'm just making sure the space is alright. But anyways, Deadly Gaze inflicts 100% physical damage on all enemies. Kills the enemy after 2 turns at a certain rate. Inflicts 100% physical damage if the enemy is immune to all debuffs. He also decreases the physical attack for enemies by 40% for 2 turns. There is where the buff is for Knox in Deadly Gaze. I do not remember him decreasing physical attack in this ability. Now let's take a good look at Hellwave for a second. Hellwave hasn't exactly been changed, but it's still an ability you definitely need to know about. He inflicts 60% physical damage on all enemies 2 times, decreases the enemy's buff duration by 2 turns, increases the enemy's skill CD by 20 seconds. This is why Knox is king of the arena. Not just because of Hellwave, but because of all of his abilities. His abilities work so well with the death meta build. He is just so strong in arena, absolutely perfect. You cannot build a death meta team without Knox. And if you have him on your death meta team, it's just devastating. He is an amazing hero, and if you're planning on building a death meta team, he is a must-have. And once you get him, trust me, you will not want to take him off your team in arena. Anyways, Sword Wind of the Abyss. Or Sword Wind of Abyss, whatever. Anyways, this applies the death debuff on 4 enemies at a certain rate. Kills the enemy after 2 turns at a certain rate. Inflicts 100% physical damage if the enemy is immune to debuffs. Now, this is kind of a balance for this ability. He also applies the death debuff additionally at a certain rate. This means he has a chance of killing an enemy outright, provided they are vulnerable to status effects. Now what this ability used to do is he used to just straight up apply death to everyone, and it was guaranteed. There was no chance of him applying it, he just applied it to everyone, provided that they are not immune to debuffs.
This is the place I protect!
Rook has also been awakened today, which is awesome! Why is that so awesome? Rook is an excellent addition for defensive teams. You need him if you're going to build any defensive build. He will be a huge help to you. But anyways, let me show you why he's so good in defensive teams. Decreases the physical damage he receives by 70%. And he protects all defensive type allies from cooldown increasing debuffs. Additionally, block will be applied for all damage received. Guardian Wall is definitely a strong passive, and this really highlights my point earlier of him being excellent for defensive type teams. But even though he is a strong defensive type hero, he is very aggressive. Javelin is a good example of that aggression. Javelin inflicts 100% physical damage on 1 enemy 3 times. Additionally, critical hit will be applied. Bleeds the enemy for 200% physical damage for 2 turns. This ability is a single target attack, which means he might not be all that bad against raid bosses. But that is not the only reason I say he might be decent against raid bosses. His second ability is what makes him really strong in both arena, castle rush, and in raids. Here's why. Light Shield will provide a shield that will absorb up to 3,000 damage to all allies. All allies will become immune to debuffs for 1 time. You will find a lot of use out of this ability. Not only is it really good for arena, it's really good for castle rush, and it's really good for raid. Raid bosses deal a massive amount of damage, and that shield and that immunity to debuffs for 1 time will really assist you. Now let's take a look at his awakening ability. Wailing Shield. Inflicts 100% physical damage on all enemies, stuns enemies at a certain rate for 2 turns, decreases the enemy's counter rate by 50% for 2 turns. This is another good example of his aggression. He is definitely a tank you're going to be seeing used in multiple places, not just in Arena, but also in raids and in Castle Rush. Although this is an AoE ability, his passive and his active skills are going to be what make him useful in multiple areas, not just Arena.
Forward to victory!
Chancellor has also been awakened today. So yeah, this is a really cool day for 7 Knights, isn't it? A lot of great heroes have been awakened. But Chancellor has been balanced a little bit. Now let me show you how he's been balanced. Will of Justice. Becomes immune to magic damage for 6 turns. Becomes immune to cooldown increasing debuffs. All offensive type allies will also be protected. If the damage received is higher than his current HP, he survives with 1 HP. The Chancellor used to be really useful in defensive teams. Now he's going to be used much differently because of this change. Is the bad change? Kinda, sort of, because the magic immunity might actually end up being useful because the magic meta is coming. There are going to be a lot of mages released. Excuse me if my words are a little jumbled up, my fellow gamers. My head is killing me. It is absolutely killing me. My head feels like it's going to explode. And pardon me if you see me checking the top of my screen there. And I already talked about that earlier. See, my head is driving me crazy. It's making me repeat things. Anyways, let's take a look at his first active ability. Chest Cut of Light. Inflicts 60% physical damage on all enemies 3 times. Additionally, piercing will take effect. Additionally, critical hit will be applied. Sorry if I'm a little low-key today, my fellow gamers. My head is killing me. But yeah, there has been a weird change with Chancellor, and Sword of Brilliance is one of those changes. What Sword of Brilliance used to do is it used to just straight up debuff. That's it. It just removed buffs. But now, instead of just removing buffs, it decreases the buff duration, and it inflicts 100% physical damage on all enemies 2 times. And, as I said, decreases the enemy's buff duration by 2 turns, and increases the enemy's skill CD by 20 seconds. Instead of doing all this, all it used to do is just straight up remove buffs, and I kind of understand why they did this, because I'll be honest with you, this ability wasn't very useful, because it didn't do any damage, it just removed buffs straight up. Like, say someone was on the Undead effect, it would straight up remove that. But you could not use the Sword of Brilliance. You used to not be able to use it unless there was a major buff up, like the Undead effect. So this skill just wasn't usable unless a buff was up like that. But yeah, I can understand why they did that, because now it's a little more useful and you can use it a little more often. Now, as for his awakening skill, Judgment of Justice, this has also been changed. Judgment of Justice inflicts 70% physical damage on 3 enemies. Additionally, piercing will take effect. Electrifies for 2 turns at a certain rate. What this used to do is it used to inflict a fixed 2,000 damage, and it just debuffed enemies. I can understand the change. I really can, because the 2,000 fixed was a lot, but at the same time, he was not providing the utility he was supposed to, if you ask me, because one of his abilities were practically incapacitated because you couldn't really use it unless any really strong enemy buffs were up, like the Undead effect. So most of him was kind of incapacitated, and the 2,000 fixed damage was kind of done with Evan's awaken ability, so it didn't really seem useful, other than the fact that his passive is what really made him useful for defensive teams, because he used to reflect damage and he decreased the damage he took. Not only that, but he also revived. After he was killed, he revived with, I believe it was 100% HP. So I can understand these changes as far as active is concerned, but I really was hoping that they could have left some of the things with his passive the same. But be that as it may, it's still pretty good. I'd still use him, but he definitely would be used a little differently than what he used to be. That is definitely true. But alright, without any further ado, let's take a look at everybody's animations. Awesome, it doesn't look like they've changed anything with that. Nice.
Death and destruction.
You have no idea how happy I am to see these animations in the global version.
Become lost.
Awesome! Just beyond awesome. Oh man.
I present to you
That is just so cool. His animations were actually the first animations I actually was in awe about. When the Awakening characters were first released, Knox was another one of the first characters that were released Awakened, along with these other two heroes. These animations were the first to make my jaw drop, along with Evan's and Karen's. But man, Knox's animations are still some of my favorite. But alright, you're gonna like Rook's. Some of his animations are kind of the same, but his awakening skill is really cool. Wasn't that cool? Wasn't that awesome? But alright, let's take a look at the Chancellor's animations.
forward to victory.
His are completely different. All of his animations are completely different from what they were before. But wow, just wait and see. That's all I have to say. His are pretty phenomenal.
Fall before my sword. Disperse.
Wow. Alright, still as cool as I remember. Sweet. Isn't that cool? Isn't that awesome? But yeah, all of these characters are really, really cool. All of them are awesome. But since Knox is here, the death meta is about to arrive. So expect an awakened Chris. And probably a little sometime after Chris, you might see an awakened Spike as well. Now, as for the rest of the knights, not all of them have been awakened yet on the original version of the game. Not all of them have been awakened yet. There's still, I believe, 2 knights that have not been awakened. I won't ruin the surprise for you by telling you who they are. But yeah, a few of the knights have not yet been awakened. But I'm pretty sure all of them will be awakened. So don't worry about that. But anyways, that's all the time I have left for this video, my fellow gamers. I really wish I could awaken Knox, but I do not have the awakening stones for him, so that is a pain for me. That is just a nightmare because I really wanted to awaken Knox. You see, the thing is, I didn't think they were going to awaken Knox until way later, because they were already practically starting the magic meta by releasing Chloe and Yunhee. After releasing those 2 heroes, I was thinking they were going to start the magic meta. So I awakened Ballista and said, you know what, I'm going to awaken her, throw her on my team, and see if I can't make my DPS team again. But then they decided to awaken Knox after I just used all of my awakening stones, and I have literally 0 left. None. I cannot awaken Knox because I already used all of my stones. Whoa! I want to get really angry, but I can't because my head is telling me not to. My head hurts really, really badly. Oh, man. But anyways, that's all the time I have left for this video, my fellow gamers. You know what? I'm going to tell you why my head is hurting really quick. I'm going to tell you why it's hurting. I'm actually working on an animation, and it's showcasing a hero that a friend of mine, T. Bluemon, wanted to be in the game. And what I did was I helped him a lot with his project. I drew some fan art of this character, and I made a whole new design for him. And what I'm doing is I'm putting that design I made of made of T. Blumon's character into an animation, because we have talked to developers a lot about these characters and they're just not saying enough. So what I think is the developers need to see this character for themselves to know how great he is. I can see this character in my head along with T. Blumon. We both can see this character moving and speaking, and we can just see him in the game, and we know that he will suit this game perfectly. But the developers just don't seem to see our idea, so I decided to make an animation showing this character move around alive using his awakening skill. Now, I want to do his other active abilities and all that kind of stuff, but I don't really have the time for that. Animation takes quite a while. It's probably going to take me a little over a month or just a month to do this animation I'm doing here right now, because it's a one-man project I'm doing here. So the special effects aren't going to be fantastic, but I have experience in animation. I went to school for it. I know what to do. So it's not going to be absolutely ugly. It's not going to look like stick figures or anything like that. I've worked in animation for years, anime particularly. So I'm going to make sure this is fantastic for the developers. And when it comes out, I'm going to post it here on this channel. I want you guys to share this video when it comes out. It's not going to be very long. It's probably going to be a minute or so. But I want you guys to share this with your friends and all that kind of stuff, because the developers need to make this hero happen in-game. But anyways, I don't know if I'm going to show you a clip on it or something, because I am almost done with it. Almost. I don't think I'm going to show you a sneak peek on that just yet. But anyways, that's all the time I have left for this video, my fellow gamers. I'll think about showing you that sneak peek maybe in a future video, because I am thinking of making a death build guide video a little later, so I might include the sneak peek of my animation in that video. But anyways, that's all the time I have left, my fellow gamers. Remember, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Take it easy for me, alright? Bye.